بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم إننا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعاء لا يستجاب لها ثم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome everyone to our first class of our course, The Virtue of Knowledge, from the Sunan of Ibn Maajah, rahimahullah ta'ala. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. First off, we like to remind ourselves of the importance of al-Ikhlas before we even talk about this particular compilation and the set of ahadith that we're going to study. The first thing we like to remind ourselves of is the importance of Ikhlas, sincerity. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Innamal a'malu bin-niyat, wa innama likulli imri'in ma nawa." That certainly, verily, indeed, all actions are by their intentions, and everyone will obtain what they intended. So it's extremely important for us to renew our intentions as to why we are here studying ilm, studying knowledge, studying the sayings of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-hadith al-sharif. We should renew our intentions, making sure that we are seeking this knowledge only with the intention of drawing closer to Him, Azza wa Jalla. As any deed that's done for other than Allah, it is rejected. It's important for us to make sure that we are constantly renewing our intentions so that we may benefit from the fruits that are obtained from seeking knowledge and attending the gatherings of ilm, especially the gatherings of hadith. We'd like to thank all the attendees for signing up for this course. Jazakumullah khairah. As those who do not thank the people, la yashkurullah, they have not thanked Allah Azza wa Jalla. Alhamdulillah, today we're going to take a look at a few ahadith in this compilation. But before we even get into that, inshallah ta'ala, I'd like to mention a few beneficial points in regards to this sunan and the author himself. It's important for us to learn a little bit about the author, as he's benefited us with this ilm, this knowledge. It's important to learn something about him so that we have a connection with him and we increase in our dua for him, rahimahullah ta'ala. He is Ibn Maajah. His kunya is Abu Abdillah. His name is Muhammad ibn Yazeed ibn Maajah. This is the name that he's given, al-Qazweeny. So his actual name is Muhammad. His father's name was Yazeed, rahimahumullah. So therefore, where does he get the title Ibn Maajah? How is he known, or why is he known as Ibn Maajah? Why has this name become famous? Scholars have disputed regards to who was Ibn Maajah. Among them, Sheikh Sadiq Hassan Khan, he said that Ibn Maajah, the name Maajah, was the name of his mother. While there's other scholars who said that Maajah was the name of his grandfather, right? Muhammad ibn Yazeed ibn Maajah, right? That would make sense. That's the name of his grandfather. While others say, la, rather, Maajah was the name of his father. His father's name was Yazeed. However, he was known as Maajah. Khairan. And what the scholars have mentioned and they agree upon, or most of them have agreed upon, is that this name Maajah is a title that was given to his father, okay, and not his grandfather, and nor was it the name of his mother. Khairan. So he is Muhammad ibn Maajah. Yani Muhammad ibn Yazeed. Yazeed is the name of his father, and Maajah is the title for that particular name. and he is from al-Qazweeny, which is why he's given the title or the nisbah of al-Qazweeny in reference to where he was born and where he actually ended up passing away and being buried. As for his rihla in seeking knowledge, his traveling of seeking knowledge, he first began in his own land. Okay, he learned from the ulama in his own land in Qazween, showing that from the etiquettes of talib al-ilm is to seek knowledge in their land first and exhaust all the resources in their land. After they have done so, they go out to the other lands, seeking the ulama of those other lands. This is from the etiquettes of the ulama of old as well as today. They sought knowledge in their land, they obtained ilm, as much of it as they could, and then they traveled in seeking and increasing their knowledge. After obtaining knowledge from the ulama of his land, he traveled to hear hadith and write hadith in Basra as well as Kufa. These are reference to two Islamic cities in Iraq, modern day Iraq. Okay, those two cities were considered to be one of the major cities in the Islamic world during that particular time, the 2nd century, the 3rd century. He also went to Baghdad. He also traveled to Mecca and Sham. Sham is in reference to modern day, what we know today as Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Jordan, that particular area. He also went to Egypt and other places as well that were filled with Islamic knowledge and were known for their ulama. And this is mentioned by his companions, like Ibn Khalkan and Abu Ya'la al-Khalili mentions these places where he traveled to seek knowledge. As for his status in knowledge, his status in terms of his ilm, and how his contemporaries saw him, then we have statements like from al-Rafi'i in al-Tadween, where he mentions that Ibn Maajah huwa imamun min a'immat al-Muslimin, that he was an imam from the a'imma of the Muslims, from the imams of the Muslims. SubhanAllah. Kabirun, someone who had a lot of knowledge. Mutqin, he was precise in his memory. Maqbool bi-ittifaq, and he was accepted in agreement among all the ulama. He was not someone who was rejected, his narrations were rejected. La, he was accepted by ittifaq, everyone accepted him, showing his status. Ibn Khalkan, he said about Ibn Maajah, kana imaman fil hadith, that he was an imam in hadith. And when we hear the word imam today, alhamdulillah, everyone is an imam. It's become a regular title that doesn't really have much value in its meaning. And subhanAllah, I just recently I saw a clip from Sheikh Saleh al-Luhaydan, among the major scholars in Riyadh, Abdillah ta'ala, where he reminded, he was giving a lecture and the presenter was introducing the Sheikh and said that the Sheikh was an imam. So when the time came for the Sheikh to speak, he reminded and he taught the attendees that this word imam is a tremendous word, and it shouldn't be applied to anybody, even among Ahlul Ilm, those who have knowledge. Among the scholars, that word imam is not applied to any scholar. Rather, it's only applied to those who are deserving of it. So this Sheikh, he says here, he mentions that Ibn Maajah kana imaman fil hadith. He was an imam in hadith. Arifan bi'ulumihi, who was extremely knowledgeable of its sciences and everything that was connected to it. Jami' ma yata'allaqu bih, what was connected to that. Ibn Athir, he mentioned in al-Kamil that Ibn Maajah kana aqilan, that he was a person of intellect, who had aql, imaman aliman, he was an imam and a scholar. Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah ta'ala, in Bidayah wa Nihaya, he mentions about Ibn Maajah, Sahib al-Sunan al-Mashhura, He's the one who wrote the famous Sunan of Ibn Maajah, of course. And that compilation, that Sunan, هي دالة على علمه وعمله وتبحره واطلاعه واتباعه السنة الأصول والفروع. That compilation is clear evidence. It indicates his knowledge, his implementation of that knowledge, his vast knowledge of many other sciences. He wasn't just a scholar in hadith, as many people think, right? They think when they hear Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Imam Tirmidhi, and these other Imam hadith, they think that they're just Imams in hadith. But that is a misconception. They're not just Imam fil hadith, rather they're also among the fuqaha. So much so that they had their own madhab, people who would follow their opinions in fiqh. And their fiqh can be seen within their compilation for the one who studies and understands, the one who has knowledge and he's trained, or she is trained and ilm and how to study. They can see the fiqh of these imams in their sunan, in their sihah, in their hadith compilations. So this is why Ibn Kathir, he says that his sunan, it shows his tabahhur, that he was well grounded and well rounded in the Islamic sciences. And his sunan also showed his extensive reading, وَاطِّلَاعِهِ. And it also showed his sternness in regards to following the sunnah, in regards to the foundational issues of the deen, fil usul wal furu', and the branches. In reference to aqidah and fiqh. Okay, the usul being aqidah and the furu' being a'mal, actually like sunnah, like the salah, zakah, buyur, hajj, وهكذا وسائر الأعمال. طيب. High praise from the great Imam Ibn Kathir. And there's many other words of praise for this great Imam. وَنَكْتَفِي بِهَذَا, we'll suffice with that. In regards to his sunan, so that's in regards to the Imam and his status. Of course, we know that Imam Ibn Maajah passed away 273 years after Hijrah, and he was born 209 years after Hijrah. So he was born about 5 years after the death of Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah. As Imam al-Shafi'i, Muhammad bin Idris al-Shafi'i, he passed away 204 years after Hijrah. And this Imam was born 209 years after Hijrah. So about 5 years after the death of Shafi'i. And he died 273. And he was about 64 years of age. So let's talk about his sunan now. As for his sunan, Imam al-Dhahabi, he mentions in his siyar, Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, about Ibn Maajah and his sunan, that he had shown this sunan to Abu Zur'a al-Razi. And he looked towards it, he studied it, and he read it, and he said, Abu Zur'a, after reading it, that أظن إن وقع هذا في أيدي الناس تعطلت هذه الجوامع أو أكثرها. He said that I believe that if this sunan of Ibn Maajah were to become in the hands of the people, okay, if it will become widespread among the people, that the rest of the jawami', the rest of the hadith compilations would be abandoned, would be left off, will be inactive. People would not read it due to the fawaid contained within this sunan of Ibn Maajah, showing high praise for this compilation. Ibn Abi Shaybah authored al-Musannaf. You ever heard of al-Musannaf Ibn Abi Shaybah? This Musannaf is a famous compilation, a crucial book where it compiles, for the most part, statements and actions and affirmations of the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, Atba' Tabi'een. It focuses on those riwayats. طيب. So if a person wants to know what did a Sahabi say, if they want to learn about the statements of the Sahaba, for example, or the statements of the Tabi'un, they will refer to that book, Musannaf Ibn Abi Shaybah. What Ibn Maajah decided to do was, he was influenced by his Shaykh Ibn Abi Shaybah after reading al-Musannaf, so he decided to compile his own compilation. However, instead of compiling those narrations that were narrated by the Sahaba, or about the Sahaba and the Salaf, he decided to do one for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is what led to his Sunan Ibn Maajah. All right, this is what encouraged him to compile this book. And this book, unlike other compilations at that time, like Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, and others, he did not have the intention of compiling every authentic hadith which he came across. That was not his intention. Rather, when he compiled the Sunan, he wanted to compile that which he had. Ahadith that were sahih, he put it in his Sunan. Ahadith that were da'if, he put it in his Sunan. Okay? That which was hasan, in terms of his grading, he put it in his Sunan. He put everything in his Sunan. Okay? He did not specify which was considered to be sahih according to him, nor did he specify which was considered to be da'if according to him. All right? As opposed to Imam Bukhari, when he compiled his compilation, Jami' Sahih al-Musnad, okay, his intent was not to compile every ahadith he came across, nor was it to compile every authentic hadith he came across. Rather, his intention was to compile the most authentic hadith, according to him, with his strict conditions. This was Imam Bukhari's intent when he compiled his Jami' Sahih al-Musnad. Okay? While other scholars, like Imam Muslim, he wanted to compile authentic ahadith, as well as those ahadith that are considered to be hasan, okay, that did not reach the level of, or the stringent conditions of Imam Bukhari, that which was hasan. And he would also clarify those ahadith that were considered to be shadh. Imam Nasa'i, his intent when he gathered his Sahih was to, well, he had a kubra, right, Sunan al-Kubra, and this larger compilation, he compiled every hadith he came across. And then a king during his time had requested him to make a authentic compilation. So he made a summary of that Kubra, Sunan al-Kubra, which is now known today as Sunan al-Sughra, or al-Mujtaba, or al-Mujtana. Okay, those different names given to what we have today as Sunan al-Nasa'i. And in it are some, weak ahadith. Imam al-Tirmidhi, Abu Dawood, their intent when they compiled their Sunan, their intent was to collect ahadith that were hasan, and there's some weak ahadith in there as well. As for Ibn Maajah, he never placed that condition. He never mentioned any condition where he's only compiling sahih or hasan or anything like that. Rather, he compiled everything. And that wasn't strange. You had compilations, people were doing that. Because the muhaddithun, right, not only did they memorize authentic hadith, right, in that time, but they also memorized with their chains, weak ahadith. Showing, subhanAllah, how Allah has blessed them in terms of their memory. How Allah blessed them in terms of their memory and their strength of their memory. That they not only memorize those authentic ahadith, but they also memorize, Allahu Akbar, even the weak ahadith. And the reason for that was to differentiate. So if they memorize a weak hadith, they know that is weak. All right, so that they can clarify to the people what is weak and what is strong. Khayran? So this is the major difference between the Sunan of Ibn Maajah and the other books of ahadith. He did not place that condition of only compiling sahih or hasan hadith. He also, another difference between his compilation and the other compilations is that when he narrated weak hadith, he didn't clarify that it was weak. Okay, unlike other compilations where when they did narrate weak hadith, they clarified clearly, like Tirmidhi, you see it a lot in his Jami', we see it a lot. He actually mentions that this hadith is weak. Okay? And the reason why he will mention those ahadith is because perhaps they're the only ahadith in about that particular subject. So he'll mention it because it's the only thing mentioned regarding that subject. So he'll mention it for that reason. All right? Ibn Majah's compilation, because it has weak ahadith, you find that many scholars, they do not count it as the to be among the 6 books of hadith, kutub al-sitta, all right, because of the amount of weak ahadith therein, and instead they place the Muwatta of Imam Malik instead, while others they put the Sunan ad-Darimi instead. So the difference in opinion as to which exactly are considered to be the 6 books of Sunnah, all right, kutub al-sitta. However, the first to place Ibn Majah's compilation as the 6 books hadith was al-Fadl bin Tahir, scholar of the past with hadith. Okay, and then after him there came Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi in his book al-Ikmal fi Asma' al-Rijal, and then after him, of course, Mizzi, right? He hadhabahu, he provided tahdhib of that larger compilation. He made it some edits to it, and he placed Ibn Majah's compilation over, he gave preference to his compilation over Imam Malik's. All right, and the reason why these scholars place Ibn Majah's compilation among the 6 over Imam Malik's, although Imam Malik's is more authentic in terms of the number of ahadith that are authentic, and as well as Darimi, is because of those ahadith that cannot be found within the other 5 books and that are only found within the Sunan of Ibn Majah. Yani there's certain ahadith that can only be found in Sunan of Ibn Majah, that cannot be found anywhere else. Okay? These ahadith that cannot be found anywhere else except for Sunan of Ibn Majah, these are referred to as Zawaid. Zawaid. You ever heard of Zawaid Ibn Majah? Or Zawaid Alam Thani? Right? This is in reference to those narrations that are specific, that can only be found in that particular compilation. So this is the reason why they mention Ibn Majah's compilation, although it has a lot of weak hadith in it, they mention it over Imam Malik's, because Imam Malik's has repetition of ahadith that have already been mentioned in the previous 5. So if you were to include it within the other 5, it's like a repetition. It's nothing new for the most part. Khairan. In regards to the Zawaid, okay, you have some scholars, they wrote books regarding those narrations that can only be found in Ibn Majah, like Al-Busayri. He's the most famous of them who did so. Famous book that a person studies when you study his compilation. He specifies which narrations have only been collected by Ibn Majah in the collection. All right. Now, there's a statement you will hear among Ahlul Ilm in regards to these Zawaid, these narrations that are only collected by Ibn Majah. They say, "Ma tafarrada bihi Ibn Majah, falaysa lana bihi haja." That whatever has only been collected by Ibn Majah, that we have no need for it. Why do they say that? They say that because they claim that most of those ahadith are weak. Most of those ahadith are weak. However, as mentioned by Shaykhuna Muhammad Ali Alim Ethiopi, this is not true. This is a false claim. That when you study those ahadith that have only been collected by Ibn Majah, you'll find that within it are ahadith that are sahih. Within it are those ahadith that are hasan. Okay? And yes, it does contain weak hadith, but it's not the most. It's not all of them. All of them are not da'if. Okay? It's only a few, only some. Okay? As for the number of hadith in this compilation, well, there's a difference of opinion. Okay, some say, like Muhammad Fuad, famous scholar of hadith who did tarqeem of the Sunan and the Sihah, right? He's one of those scholars who numbered the ahadith. Okay, in the time of Imam Bukhari, right? And these imams, they didn't write the numbers of the hadith. Scholars came after them and wrote the numbers for those hadith. That's called tarqeem. Muhammad Fuad, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was among those who gave attention to this and provided this service for the ummah. Okay, he said that the number of books, chapters in the Sunan of Ibn Maajah is 37, not counting the muqaddimah, not counting the introduction. And the babs, the abwab, under those books, okay, so there's a book and there's chapters underneath each book, right? The amount of chapters within all of the books is 1,515. And the number of ahadith in total is 4,341. Okay? This is according to this particular scholar, all right? But Imam Albani, Shaykh al-Albani, rahimahullah ta'ala, Nasruddin Albani, may Allah have mercy on him, when he did the takhrij of this compilation, he found that there were 3,503 ahadith that were sahih, okay, authentic, and there were 948 hadith that were inauthentic, da'if. All right, if you add those two numbers together, you get what? 4,451. So you see there's a big difference between the number that Muhammad Fuad, rahimahullah ta'ala, came up with, 4,341, and what Albani, rahimahullah ta'ala, had come up with, 4,451. That's about how much? Like 110 hadith difference. Okay? The reason for that is because, as you'll see, yani, like for example, take a look at the screen here. The Imam, he will narrate was one hadith, okay, and then he'll narrate the second hadith right here, another chain. As you can see, look at the wording, they look similar to each other, right? He said, خيركم, and another narration, Sufyan, أفضلكم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه, while over here, خياركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. Because they have similar wordings, you'll find that some scholars, they combine it as one narration. While others, they say, no, this is one narration, and this is another. And they do the tarqeem like that. So this is the reason why you'll find any difference in the amount of ahadith in this particular compilation. Okay? As for the written explanations for this book, then there are many. Alhamdulillah, the ulama, they gave attention to this particular compilation. Among them was al-i'lam bi sunnatihi alayhi salam. Also, you have another explanation, ma tamassu ilayhi al-haja ila Sunan Ibn Maajah by Sirajuddin al-Mulaqqin al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, al-Dibaja al-Kamaluddin al-Shafi'i, excuse me, Misbah al-Zajjaj, we mentioned earlier, ala Sunan Ibn Maajah, for Jalaluddin al-Suyuti, Injaz al-Haja. Okay, this is a summarized explanation by Salih Taqi Abdul Ghani bin al-Sheikh al-Dahlawi. Kifayat al-Haja fi Sharh Ibn Maajah, which is more famously known as Hashiyat al-Sindi. This is one of the most famous explanations the person studies when they study the Sunan of Ibn Maajah. And generally, yani, this Allama, rahimahullah ta'ala, Nuruddin Abul Hasan Muhammad bin Abdul Hadi al-Sindi, his commentary over the books of hadith are usually, mashallah, they're studied because it's concise and it's easy to grasp. And there's other explanations as well, many of different explanations. Currently, even this book is being taught in Mecca by Shaykhuna Wasilullah Abbas. He recently began his explanation in Ramadan this past year, this past Ramadan, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, as well as Shaykhuna Muhammad Bazmoul, who began his explanation about 2 years ago, or so, and other scholars as well who are teaching from this compilation. So this book, alhamdulillah, is mu'tabar, it's studied and it's relied upon for the students of hadith and fiqh. Ibn Majah, this book, as we mentioned, he was a faqih, all right? And besides his muqaddimah, his introduction to the book, and the last couple of chapters in his compilation, right? The last chapter is Kitab al-Zuhd. It's a long chapter regarding asceticism, okay, zuhud and ahadith pertaining to zuhud. Besides those chapters, the beginning and the end, it's filled with abwab al-fiqh, ahadith pertaining to abwab al-fiqh. Khayran? All right. Excuse me. When you take a look at the muqaddimah, we say muqaddimah. Normally you have, 2019, if you say introduction, and by the way, it's muqaddimah or muqaddama. Both of them are correct. And ism maf'ul or ism fa'il. Both of the pronunciations are correct. All right. Normally in introductions you have kalam from the ulama, right? They'll write the reason why they wrote the book, thanking those who helped them, etc. Or perhaps if you study books from the past, they'll explain certain sciences. Like, for example, the Sahih of Imam Muslim. He, in his muqaddimah, his introduction, he explains beneficial points regarding to ulum al-hadith, usul al-hadith, mustalah al-hadith, okay, hadith terminology. We explain certain things that a person has to read and understand before reading his compilation. All right. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari in Tafsir, he provides a muqaddimah, introduction, where he clarifies and he explains beneficial points in regards to usul al-tafsir. طيب. However, Ibn Majah, in his compilation, after he praises Allah and sends the salah wa salam upon the Prophet ﷺ, making dua, he begins with mentioning the ahadith. Okay, he mentions the ahadith. The first chapter he begins with Babu ittiba' sunnati Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. طيب. The chapter of ittiba', following the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And you'll notice, okay, that subhanAllah, his tartib, the way he placed his ahadith and his abwab, his chapter headings, and it shows that he has fiqh, shows his deep understanding and ilm and insight that Allah Azza wa Jalla grants him. So he's writing a book, he's compiling a book of hadith, right? And he begins the book with what? The virtue, the obligation of following the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this whole muqaddimah is known as Kitab al-Sunnah, the book of sunnah. But let's take a look at how he organizes it. First, he begins with mentioning ahadith, ittiba' sunnati Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why? Because this is the deen. This is how we understand the deen, the Quran and the Sunnah. And it's not possible to enter into paradise except through the way that Allah Azza wa Jalla has taught us, which is via the Quran and the Sunnah. Then after mentioning ahadith pertaining to ittiba' sunnati Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he follows it up with chapters regarding Iman. Iman. Why? Because it is the foundation for the Muslim, okay, in worshipping Allah. If a person's Iman, their Aqidah is messed up, is incorrect, then what they study in fiqh will not benefit them. All right, what they study in terms of ahkam al-salah, ahkam al-bay', ahkam al-hajj, etc., it will not benefit them if their Aqidah, if their understanding and belief in Allah Azza wa Jalla is not sound. So for that reason, he placed ahadith explaining and clarifying Iman. طيب. And then after Iman, he placed ahadith in regards to the fada'il of the ashab Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of the Sahaba, the virtue of the Sahaba. Why did he do that? Why did he mention the virtue of the Sahaba after Iman, after the Sunnah, after Iman? Because they are those, radiallahu anhum, who relayed the sunnah to us. Right? They're the ones who carried the message of the Prophet ﷺ and relayed it and taught it to the tabi'un, who then related to the atba' tabi'in, who then eventually, it was relayed to us in 2019. Okay? So it's extremely important to learn about their virtues, okay, and to become acquainted with their status in Islam. For that reason, throughout this course, inshallah ta'ala, we'll mention something regarding some of the narrators that we come across in terms of the Sahaba. Right? In a 40 Hadith Nawawi course, for those students who are enrolled in that course, you know that we spend about 15 minutes, 20 minutes mentioning the biographies of these Sahaba. In this course, because it's intensive, mukaththab, we're going to maybe spend 5 minutes, if that. But we'll mention something regarding these narrators, okay? In regards to the Sahaba, specifically. And then after mentioning the Sahaba and their virtues, Ibn Maajah, he goes on to mention ahadith pertaining to the Khawarij. Why the Khawarij? Because they kharaju ala ahli al-haq in ashabi Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because they deviated from the people of truth. They exited from that guidance and they went against the Sahaba. Right? Whenever you learn something, it's important to learn the opposite. وَبِدِدِّهَا تَتَبَيَّنُ الْأَشْيَاء. Right? Learning the opposites helps an individual to understand that concept. What did the famous Sahabi Hudayfa ibn Yaman say? Right? That he learned the shar, not for the shar in of itself. Right? He learned the evil, not because he wanted to practice evil. However, he مخافة أن يقع فيه. He learned that evil, fearing that he would fall into it. Okay? He saw that the companions would ask about good, and he would ask the Prophet ﷺ about the evil, so that he would not fall into that evil. Right? Learning the opposites. When Allah teaches about Tawheed, He teaches us about shirk and kufr, the opposites. So likewise here, Ibn Maajah from his fiqh, is that after mentioning the virtues of the Sahaba, he mentions those who were against the Sahaba, among the Khawarij. So that people could stay away from their innovation, be warned of their deviation. And then he follows that up with the chapter of whoever does a sunnah hasana, then they'll be rewarded for it, and rewarded for everyone who follows them in that goodness. And the opposite, if someone does a bad deed, then they'll be rewarded. There'll be recompense for that bad deed, and anyone who follows them in regards to that. And then he has a chapter of whoever revives a sunnah that was once extinct. Okay, he relates a hadith pertaining to that, encouraging us to learn the sunnah, right, and spread it. Spread the sunnah that is ma'rufah, that's known among the people, and also to revive that sunnah that has become extinct among the people in which the people are not aware of. Okay? And then finally he ends Kitab al-Sunnah, his muqaddimah, bi abwab al-ilm, with the chapters of knowledge, which we're going to study in this course today, in this week or so. All right? Why did he end it with ilm? Because showing us and telling us that the sunnah and everything that he mentioned before cannot be obtained except via ilm, except for knowledge. That a person, if they want to learn the sunnah, if they want to learn about iman, if they want to learn about the Sahaba and their virtues, want to learn about deviation of the Khawarij, right? They want to learn about practicing the sunnah and reviving the sunnah and obtain all those rewards. They have to obtain knowledge, obtain ilm. Exert your efforts in learning the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So this is why he ends his muqaddimah with a hadith pertaining to knowledge and the different aspects of knowledge. And then after that, he begins with Kitab al-Tahara, like a normal fiqh book, okay? Normal hadith book compilation, Kitab al-Tahara, Kitab al-Salah, Kitab al-Zakah, right? Kitab al-Sawm, Kitab al-Hajj, Kitab al-Jihad, Kitab al-Buyur, wa hakadha, okay? So this is giving you insight as to why the book of knowledge is placed where it is in the Sunan. All right. And the reason why we're studying it is because of the virtue of ilm. If we want to become Muslims upon Sirat al-Mustaqim, we have to learn. And one of the greatest means of having that desire, developing that vigor, that raghbah, that desire in learning knowledge is to learn about the virtues of knowledge. And this is the whole intent of this course, to encourage everyone to learn about these ahadith and continue on even after this course in seeking knowledge. That seeking knowledge is a lifelong journey. Okay? This is one of the major intents of this particular course. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to accept it from us and to make it a proof for us and not against us. Wallahi, this is a tremendous blessing from Allah to gather together and study the hadith of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right? How many times have we heard about the virtues of the Sunnah? Right? How many times have we heard in the khutab, different sermons, different lectures? And now Allah has granted us the ability to actually study the Sunnah. Right? We're opening a book of Sunnah and we're studying the narration of our beloved Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That is a tremendous blessing from Allah Azza wa Jalla. As you find that some ulama, they say, Ya bin al-kirami, ala tadnu fatubsira ma qad haddathuka fama ra'in kaman sami'a. They say, Ya bin al-kiram, oh, someone who has nobility, someone is noble in their status. Ala tadnu fatubsira ma. Will you not come close so that you can clearly see what qad haddathuka, what they have narrated to you, yani in regards to the Salaf, what they have said about the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and what the Salaf have said. Will you not come close and clearly see what they have narrated to us? Okay, for indeed, certainly, فَمَا رَائٍ كَمَنْ سَمِعَ. The one who clearly sees and studies the narrations is not like the one who hears about the narration. Yani meaning that the one who hears about the virtues of the Sunnah is not like the one who actually opens the book and studies the Sunnah with the Mashayikh. طيب. So for Allah Azza wa Jalla to gather us here today, we have to realize, gathering us here today and studying and opening up the book of the Sunnah and studying the statements of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this is a tremendous ni'mah. So it's upon us to what? Thank Allah Azza wa Jalla through statements and actions. Okay? And to make dua that Allah accepts it on our behalf. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make us among the shakirin, among those who are grateful to Allah Azza wa Jalla for His numerous blessings upon us. طيب. As for this course, we have 55 ahadith we'll go over bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. If you've taken our 40 hadith Nawawi course part 1, we only went over the first 21 ahadith, but you see how many classes that took. A good amount of classes. That's because we took our time and we provided, a good amount of details pertaining to each hadith. Because those ahadith are foundational, right? They're mabadi al-Islam, as mentioned in the title, right? They're the makeup of Islam. They're the foundations of Islam. So it takes time to explain those ahadith in detail. طيب. However, for this particular course, we're not going to provide extreme details, but at the same time, we're not going to provide as they say, that the sharh will be بين الإسهام الممل والاختصار المخل. It's going to be in between. It's not going to be extremely detailed where you become bored, nor is it going to be extremely short that you feel robbed, like subhanAllah, it's like you basically didn't really benefit or address any issue. Okay? Rather than be baina bain. Okay? It's going to be bainahuma. Inshallah ta'ala be mutawassit. Alright? Of course, we're not able to discuss everything. Inshallah ta'ala, when we come across the hadith again in the future, perhaps we'll mention more details. But today, inshallah ta'ala, in this course, we want to make sure that it's mutawassit. It is balanced. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So let's begin. Let's take a look at the comments. People commenting. So let's begin with the first hadith mentioned in this compilation, which is the hadith. Well, first the bab he mentions here, Babu Fadli man ta'allama al-Qur'ana wa 'allamahu. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, when speaking about knowledge, remember, if you want to practice everything he's previously mentioned in the Sunan, you have to learn. You have to seek knowledge. How do you seek knowledge? He's going to explain to you how to seek knowledge. The first thing you do, باب فضل من تعلم القرآن وعلمه, is what? Learn the Quran. Learn the Quran. He begins the topic of knowledge with the Quran. Why? Because the Quran is asmul usul. It's the foundation of ilm. It's kalamullah, ghayru makhluq. It's the speech of Allah. It's not created. It's the speech of Ar-Rahman. طيب? This is where all knowledge of our deen starts up from. This is the asl. طيب? And then Allah Azza wa Jalla sent the Prophet ﷺ, right, to clarify what was in the Quran, how to implement the Quran, expound on the Quran. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ, and we sent down to you what? الذِّكْرَ. الذِّكْرَ, what is the dhikra? The reminder? The Quran. For what purpose? لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. SubhanAllah. So that you can clarify it to the people. Okay, you can clarify what was revealed to them, okay, from yani the Quran, and so that perhaps they may reflect and ponder over that. طيب. And this is as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in his Al-Kafiyat al-Shafiyah, more famously known as Nuniyya, right? I'm sure everyone heard of the Nuniyya. It's a poem in which every line ends with a nun. He said, وَالْعِلْمُ أَقْسَامٌ ثَلَاثٌ مَا لَهَا مِنْ رَابِعٍ وَالْحَقُّ ذُو تِبْيَانِ علم بأوصاف الإله وفعله وكذلك الأسماء للرحمن والأمر والنهي الذي هو دينه وجزاؤه يوم المعاد الثاني والكل في القرآن والسنن التي جاءت عن المبعوث بالقرآن. He says al-ilm, three types. The ilm is of three types and there's no fourth. وَالْحَقُّ ذُو تِبْيَانِ, and the truth, yani it possesses clarity. And the truth is clear as day. Ilmun, what is ilm? What are these three types of ilm? Okay, which the Muslim has to learn. Ilmun bi awsaf al-ilahi wa fi'lihi, knowledge of the descriptions of Allah Azza wa Jalla and his actions. Wa kadhalika al-asma'u lil-Rahmani, and likewise the names of Ar-Rahman. All right, this is something important that we as Muslims have to learn. Many Muslims, unfortunately, we leave this topic off. I don't know why. Yani, because of jahl, without a doubt. Right? We're unaware of the importance of Allah's names and attributes. We have to learn His names and attributes, the meanings of it, the correct understanding of it. Okay? When you read a name of Allah Azza wa Jalla, what does that necessitate from you as an abd? Right? When you know that Allah is a Sami', the all-hearing, what do you have to do at that point? Okay? How do you worship Allah through that name? When you know that Allah is al-Basir, He sees everything. How do you worship Allah based off of that name? The meanings contained within that name. Okay? When you know that Allah is al-Razzaq, al-Wahhab, al-Mannan, what does that necessitate from you as an abd? How can you worship Him through those names? So these things we have to learn. We have to study. By studying Allah's names and attributes. From Ahlul Sunnah, of course. Right? Beneficial book is Aqidatul Wasatiyya by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, as well as more contemporary book, Fiqh al-Asma al-Husna by Shaykh Abdul Razzaq al-Badr, hafidhullah ta'ala, wa walidah. May Allah preserve him and his father, among the major scholars in Medina. He wrote a book called Fiqh, the Fiqh of Allah's names, of Allah's beautiful names. Fiqh al-Asma al-Husna. Extremely beneficial book in Arabic. If you don't know Arabic, I advise you to find someone who does and make them explain it to you. Sit them down at the masjid, go to their home, and force them to read to you that book. Because of its importance. Right? Why we were created. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We're not created except that Allah Jalla created us for worship. To worship Him. And among the greatest means of worshiping Allah is learning about His names and attributes. طيب. So this is ilm. Ilm is of three types. The first is knowledge of His attributes, His actions, and His names. Second, وَالْأَمْرُ وَالنَّهِي الَّذِي هُوَ دِينُهُ, to learn about the commandments, what is obligatory for you to do, and what is obligatory for you to stay away from, what you are prohibited against. This is the deen. And also to learn about the reward, the recompense on the last day. Yani, what is the reward for doing these actions, al-Jannah, and what is the punishment in the grave, wa Abdillah, as well as Jahannam. May Allah protect us all. All of that, وَالْكُلُّ فِي الْقُرْآنِ, all of that is in the Quran. وَالسُّنَنِ الَّتِي, as well as the Sunnah, جاءت, that has come عن المبعوث, the Prophet ﷺ has come with, yani with the Quran. Okay, so all that knowledge is contained within the Quran and Sunnah. Alright? The point here is what? That the foundation of ilm, if you want to study knowledge, you want to be a student of knowledge, okay, you begin with the Quran. You have to memorize, understand. Not simply only memorize, but understand its meanings. Study its tafsir while you're memorizing it. Okay, many people, they memorize without any fahm, without any understanding, and that is not of the way of the Sahaba, as we will discuss inshallah ta'ala later on. Okay, the way of the Sahaba was to learn 10 verses, understand its meanings, act upon it, teach it to others, then move on to the next 10. This was the way of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And look at the results of that. SubhanAllah. They obtain Allah's pleasure. And they're among the people of paradise as a whole. SubhanAllah bihamdi. So if we want to obtain the same goals of Jannah and having Allah's pleasure, Him being pleased with us, we have to do the same thing. We have to follow in their footsteps and learn the Quran the same way they learned the Quran. May Allah Azza wa Jalla grant us a tawfiq. Ameen. طيب. So let's take a look at the first narration collected in this under this chapter, the virtue of the one who learns the Quran and teaches it. And it says here, قال حدثنا محمد بن بشار يعني بندار أبو بكر البصري. And we read these ahadith yesterday, right? قال حدثنا يحيى بن سعيد القطان أبو سعيد البصري. قال حدثنا شعبة بن حجاج البصري وسفيان بن سعيد الثوري. Okay, سفيان بن سعيد الثوري الكوفي. عن علقمة بن مرثد يعني الحضرمي أبو الحارث الكوفي. عن سعد بن عبيدة عن أبي عبد الرحمن السلمي عن عثمان بن عفان رضي الله عنه. Before we go into the hadith, let's speak a little bit about this particular Sahabi. He is Abu Amr, Uthman bin Affan ibn Abi al-As bin Umayyah bin Abdi Shams al-Amawi al-Madani. He's given the title Dhu an-Nurayn. Why is he given this title, this laqab? Dhu an-Nurayn, possessor of two lights. Does anyone know? Because he was what? He was married to two daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? Who were they? Radiallahu anhuma. Kulthum and Ruqayya. Right? Good. He was the third caliph in Islam. Of course, we know after Abu Bakr and Umar bin Khattab. 146 ahadith have been narrated from him in total that we have. Bukhari and Muslim have agreed upon 3 of them. Right, there 3 are muttafaq alayh. And if you recall in our 40 hadith course, we mentioned what's the difference between muttafaq alayh and collected by Bukhari and Muslim. Right, sometimes you see that ahadith are muttafaq alayh, they're agreed upon, right? But then sometimes you see it's written, collected by Bukhari and Muslim. What's the difference? Why is there a difference between those two things? We mentioned one of the reasons for that is because whenever the isnad is mentioned in both compilations, then that's one of the conditions of those two, of that hadith being muttafaq alayh. Right? We mentioned that there's some narrations in Sahih Bukhari that are mu'allaq, as well as Sahih Muslim, they're mu'allaq, meaning that the isnad is not mentioned. It's just the sahabi who's mentioned, not the entire isnad. If one of them is considered to be mu'allaq, then those ahadith, you will see those, they're right, rawahu al-Bukhari wa Muslim. However, if both the isnad are mentioned, then they'll say muttafaq alayh. And there's other conditions as well, okay? Like the scholars, they mentioned that both narrations have to be in the Sahih of Bukhari and the Sahih of Muslim, and not any other of their books, right? Al-Bukhari has Adab al-Mufrad. You guys know Al-Adab al-Mufrad? It's another book he authored. He compiled the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but in it are some weak ahadith, or in it are some hasan hadith, okay? Muttafaq alayh only references the Sahih of Imam Bukhari and the Sahih of Imam Muslim. Any other compilation that they wrote is not included. Okay, another condition they mentioned is that the hadith in both collections have to be from one sahabi, the same exact sahabi. It can't be a different sahabi who narrated the same wording of the hadith. Okay, and they mentioned that the wording has to be the same in both of those narrations. Okay, or yani close to one another. Maybe if there's addition or subtraction of one word or letter or two, yani it'll still count among some Ahlul Ilm, al-Hadith, but most of them may say it has to have the exact same wording. So those are like 4 conditions the scholars have mentioned in order for a hadith to be muttafaq alayh, considered muttafaq alayh. Why do we mention that? Oh yeah, we mentioned it because there's only 3 of them like that from the ahadith of Uthman bin Affan. Okay, we only have 3. As for the ahadith that are collected by Bukhari as a whole, then there are 8, and Muslim as a whole, there are 5. All right. We know that Uthman, of course, the major fitna that occurred as a result of the Khawarij, la'anahumullah, they killed Uthman bin Affan, this great Sahabi, on the 7th of Dhul-Hijjah, Jum'ah, in the 35th year after Hijrah. SubhanAllah. And in regards to the death of this great Sahabi, Abdullah bin Salam, he said, in regards to the fitna, لَقَدْ فَتَحَ النَّاسِ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ بِقَتْلِ عُثْمَانِ بَابُ فِتْنَةِ لَا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ وَأَرْضَاهُ. That the people have opened against their own selves a major fitna, a doorway of fitna, due to the killing of Uthman, that will never be closed until the Day of Judgment. SubhanAllah. Right? And how true is that? And from that, you have the Khawarij up until our times today. Allahu Akbar. Look at how the Khawarij, although they don't call themselves the Khawarij, but we understand who are the Khawarij by their actions. Right? You know, if you learn about the usul, the foundations of a people, they can call themselves whatever they like, but their actions are in accordance to that particular methodology. Right? And we see even today, 2019, how the Khawarij of our times still continue fitna and shed the blood of the Muslims. وَنَسَأَ اللَّهَ السَّلَامَ وَالْعَافِيَةَ. So that's in regards to the Sahabi, the great Sahabi. Let's move on. There's more information about this great Sahabi. If you notice, 146 ahadith have been narrated from him. Why is that? When he's one of the major Sahaba, right? Abu Bakr has few ahadith narrated from him. Umar bin Khattab, he has few ahadith narrated from him. Yet you have a lot of ahadith narrated on behalf of Ibn Abbas, Abdullah bin Umar, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Abu Huraira, Aisha, others among the Sahaba. Why is that? Amr bin As, radiallahu anhum. But these great Sahaba, right? Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, there are not many ahadith narrated on their behalf. Why is that? You ever thought about that? The reason being is due to their responsibilities, right? Remember, Abu Bakr, these were khulafa. They had to take care of the whole Muslim ummah, expand Muslim ummah, look after, expansion projects and expeditions, right? protecting the Muslims, making sure they paid the zakah, right? Making sure that every city was taken care of. They had a lot of responsibilities, okay? It doesn't mean that they were ignorant of those ahadith, la. It just means that there were not narrators, people who heard those ahadith from them, okay? They were knowledgeable of those ahadith without a doubt. But in terms of what they narrated from the Prophet ﷺ to others, they are few. That's because of their responsibilities at the time. They didn't have enough time. Unlike Abu Hurairah, who was a Sahabi who was poor, and he spent his time in the masjid and teaching the people. Okay, that was his responsibility to teach the people. Okay, and because there was these great Sahaba who took that responsibility, there was no need for Abu Bakr to go and sit in the masjid and teach. Right? He delegated others to do it on his behalf while he focuses on the Khilafah. Okay, running the Muslim Ummah. And that's how any smart business owner or someone in charge of affairs, this is what they do. They delegate others for certain tasks. So this is one of the reasons why there are not many ahadith narrated from these great Sahaba. And it doesn't mean that they're ignorant of it. La, abadan. Rather, they knew it, but they didn't narrate it. Okay, they didn't have time to narrate it to the tabi'een and others. Or maybe they narrated, but it did not reach us. Khayran, it did not reach us, unlike these other narrations. Tayyib. That's in regards to the great Sahabi Uthman bin Affan. May Allah be pleased with him. Let's now go on to the explanation of this hadith. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he say? Here we have two different wordings. In the Shu'bah, the narration of Shu'bah, it says what? Khayrukum, the best of you. And in the narration of Sufyan, he said, the most excellent of you. Afdalukum. These two scholars were actually contemporaries, and they were classmates, if you can say that. Okay, they studied hadith together. Okay, and there's actually many ahadith where it's narrated from both of them. Okay, Shu'bah and Sufyan. Shu'bah bin Hajjaj al-Basri and Sufyan bin Sa'id al-Thawri al-Kufi. Okay, rahimahumullah. They attended the same gatherings and learned hadith from the same mashayikh in many cases. So if that's the case, right, they attend the same gatherings, why do we have different wordings from them? And this is just one example. But when you study like other narrations, you'll see that there's other examples as well. There's other examples of this as well. Why is that? Scholars, they say that perhaps this is due to the, I don't want to say weak memory, but perhaps a mistake from one of them. One of them made a mistake and they used a different word. Or they didn't recall and they used a different word. This is one opinion. Others say, la, that's not the case. Rather, because they knew that their classmate would narrate the hadith, the other decided to narrate the hadith with another meaning to make the meaning of the original hadith clear. They will use a different wording to make the meaning of the hadith even clearer than the original statement. So khayrukum afdalukum. It's like a tafsir. Okay? It's like a sharh, explanation of the meaning. While other scholars, they say that although they heard the same wording from the same sheikh, perhaps the sheikh had met with one of them at another time and told them another route. Another route, okay, another chain with that second wording. And this is what Shaykh Muhammad Bazmul, he mentions that perhaps this is arjah, perhaps this is the most correct. And it wasn't from their tasarruf, their a mistake from them or weakness in their memory. La. But rather, the other was narrating a different wording that you heard from the same shaykh at a later time. Wallahu ta'ala alam. So this is why we have here Ibn Maajah narrating both wordings. Shu'bah says khayrukum And Sufyan, he says, Ya Thawri, أفضلكم. You guys understand that? من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. Okay. What is the meaning of خيركم, the best of you? The best of you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it to others. Does that mean that once you learn the Quran and you teach it, that you're the best of the ummah? Better than Abu Bakr Siddiq? Because Abu Bakr Siddiq, radiallahu anhu, he was not known for teaching the Quran. Right? There were other Sahaba who were known for that. But Abu Bakr Siddiq was not known for teaching the Quran. So does that mean that you become better than Abu Bakr Siddiq because he did not teach the Quran to others, but yet you are teaching the Quran to others? Is this the understanding that we should take? What do you guys think? Obviously not. But you see how a person can come to that understanding? SubhanAllah. And this is why it's important to learn knowledge under its people. So that when you read the text, you don't just read it ala kayfak, yani however you want to understand it. You read it, you understand however you wish. Whatever makes most sense to you. Right? This is this is the actions of musahifin, those who teach themselves, self-taught. And they end up making a lot of mistakes, major mistakes in the deen because they understand Islam based off of their own desires. We have to always return back to Ahlul Ilm, the people of knowledge, when reading the Quran and Sunnah. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So ask the people of knowledge if you do not know, if you don't have any knowledge. So what is the understanding of this hadith? Here's a note we wrote a couple years ago. Let's take a benefit from Shaykh Muhammad Ali Adam Ethiopi, Hafizullah Ta'ala, among the major scholars here in Mecca. May Allah preserve him and grant him shifa ajil. He said, we wrote here, there are different ahadith that say the best Islam is this action or that action. For example, the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud that mentions prayer during its time, then righteousness towards the parents. That's the best action. Or the hadith of Abdillah bin Amr that mentions giving food, then giving the salam to those you know and those you do not know as being the best action. Or the hadith of Abu Musa or the hadith of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari that mentions the best Muslim is the one who the Muslims are safe from his tongue and hand. Or the hadith of Uthman that mentions, or that says, the best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it, the hadith we're studying right now. And there are many other examples. However, how can all of these actions be the best at the same time? Is this a contradiction from the Prophet ﷺ? How can all these actions be the best at the same time? This is the issue. Shaykh Muhammad Ali Adam, Hafizullah Ta'ala, he brings clarity to this issue in his explanation to Sunan al-Nasa'i, Kitab al-Manasik, Hajj. He said that the scholars differ as to how they brought reconciliation between these ahadith. He said that Al-Allama al-Mutqin Abu Bakr al-Qaffal said there are two aspects these ahadith could be looked at, could be understood. Okay, the two different reasonings given. One is that these different expressions were used for particular instances. Meaning, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked which Islam is the best or any other similar wording, he looked to the situation of the questioner. He looked into the condition of the questioner and the people around listening, and he gave an answer that was most suitable for them and for their faith, their iman at that time. So he answered based on the condition of the sa'il, the one who asked the question. So this is why there are different narrations that mention different acts of worship. Perhaps there's a person, one Sahabi who came, who struggled in praying the salah during its time. Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ knew that and gave him advice, saying this is the best action for you to do. Focus on this action of praying salah during its time. While perhaps there was another Sahabi who had money but did not give food to others for whatever reason. So the Prophet ﷺ gave him advice to give the food, give in sadaqah food to others, feed others, as this is more beneficial for you. Okay? وَهَكَذَا. He looked at the condition of the sa'il. Another aspect these ahadith can be looked at is that the statements, the most virtuous or best action is the best of you, relates to generality, meaning that is because the word min from is omitted, and it should read from the best actions are, from the best of you are. So this is the intended meaning, that in these statements the word min is omitted, but it's intended in meaning. Okay, it's omitted from speech, however it's intended in meaning. So that the meaning becomes, from the best actions is to pray salah during its time. From the best actions is to give food, feed others. From the best actions, who the Muslims are safe from his tongue and his hand. For example, the Prophet's statement, the best of you are those who are best to their families. This doesn't mean that anyone who is good to their families or best to their families, that automatically makes them the best of people. There are other things that have to be taken into consideration. For example, is a mushrik the best of people if he's best to his family? Okay, so this is two answers as to how to understand these ahadith. One, he looked at the condition of the questioner and answered accordingly, what was best for that particular person. And two, it's from the most virtuous actions. It is from the best action to do kada wa kada. The Shaykh says here that these ahadith are general and that there are some actions better than others depending on the deed, the circumstance of when it's performed. One will be able to know which deed is more virtuous over another by studying the evidences and their indications. طيب هذا واضح؟ خير. So that's mas'ala. Second mas'ala, the best of you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it. Let's explain this part of the hadith. Now that we understand the best of you, we understand what that means. خيركم أفضلكم. We understand the context. What is the meaning of the statement as a whole? The best of you, the most virtuous of you, is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it. There are different interpretations pertaining to what's intended by this statement. Al-Taybi, he mentions that khayrun nas, the meaning is khayrun nas bi'tibar al-ta'allum wa ta'lim man ta'allama al-Qur'ana wa 'allamah. He mentions that the best of people in regards to learning and teaching are those who learn and teach the Quran. This is the meaning of the hadith. Okay? When you compare the teachers of the Quran to the teachers of fiqh, for example, or the teachers of hadith, or the teachers of the language, lugha, the best of them are those who teach the Quran. This is one interpretation. طيب. What does this statement really mean? What do other scholars say? Okay, is it referring to those who simply learn how to pronounce and recite the Quran? Is this what it means? If a person sits down with their sheikh and learns how to, recite the Quran with proper tajweed, and they go on to teach it to their students, without learning the meanings, without trying to understand what is being said, are they the best of people? Al-Qari, he mentions that وَلَا يَتَوَهَّمُ أَنَ الْعَمَلَ خَارِجٌ عَنْهُمَا لأن العلم إذا لم يكن مورثا للعمل ليس علما في الشريعة إذ أجمعوا على أن من عصى الله تعالى فهو جاهل. SubhanAllah. He says that one should not assume that actions are not included in both instances, learning and teaching. If that knowledge that person learns from the Quran does not lead towards actions, does not bequeath or beget actions, then it's not considered to be knowledge in the Sharia. And scholars have unanimously agreed that the one who disobeys Allah is the most high is considered to be jahil, ignorant. Meaning that when the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه, he's saying that the best of you are those who learn the Quran and also act upon it, implement its teachings. And those who teach the Quran and also act upon it, implement it, these are the best of people. And it doesn't reference, and it doesn't mean, nor does it include those who simply learn how to recite the Quran and teach it to others without any implementation. Okay? Why? Why does it not include it? Because scholars have unanimously agreed that the one who disobeys Allah, the one who does not act upon the Quran, is disobeyed Allah, he is considered to be jahil. He's not an alim, he's not knowledgeable, but rather he is ignorant. He is what? Ignorant. SubhanAllah. The one who disobeys Allah is considered to be ignorant, jahil. SubhanAllah bihamdi. This is as Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentioned Surah An-Nisa, إنما التوبة على الله للذين يعملون السوء بجهالة ثم يتوبون من قريب فأولئك يتوب الله عليهم وكان الله عليما حكيما. Which could be translated to mean إنما التوبة على الله, إنما التوبة على الله, that Allah only accepts the repentance للذين يعملون السوء, of those who commit evil. How? بجهالة, ignorantly, out of ignorance. ثم يتوبون, or recklessly, they repent soon thereafter. ثم يتوبون من قريب, they repent soon after to Allah. What will happen? Allah will فأولئك يتوب الله عليهم, فأولئك يتوب الله عليهم. Allah will pardon them, and Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Notice the wording of this ayah where it says يعملون السوء بجهالة. Yani Allah describes those who do su, okay, as doing so out of ignorance. So for that reason, when a person disobeys Allah, although they may be an alim, okay, considered to be an alim, at the time of disobeying Allah, they're considered to be jahil. SubhanAllah bihamdi. Why? Because they are ignorant of the haqqullah. Yani if they were to realize and remember at that moment that Allah Azza wa Jalla is watching him, seeing them, and that He's going to punish them for that action if he doesn't repent, then he wouldn't have continued upon that deed. He would have left it off. But because insan, yani we forget, right? Insan comes from the root word nasiya, which means forget. We forget. It's from our creation to forget, become forgetful. That's why we're considered to be jahil at that moment. In the tafsir of that verse, if you read Imam Sa'di's commentary of that verse in Surah An-Nisa, he said, فَكُلُّ عَاصٍ لِلَّهِ فَهُوَ جَاهِلٌ. So therefore, every person, every disobedient person, everyone who, or anyone who has disobeyed Allah, فَهُوَ جَاهِلٌ, then he is ignorant. بِهَذَا الْإِعْتِبَارِ وَإِنْ كَانَ عَالِمًا بِالتَّحْرِيمِ. Okay, from this aspect, he is ignorant. Even if he is aware, he knows of the prohibition. Okay, let's say for example, someone knows that drinking khamr or having relations with the opposite sex with not your spouse, someone knows it's haram. All right. However, at the time of doing that action, okay, they're considered to be jahil. May Allah protect us all. Okay, at the time of doing that action, they're considered to be jahil. All right. Also, what proves that the meaning of this hadith is the one who learns the Quran and acts upon it, and teaches the Quran and acts upon it, is the Khawarij, the hadith that speak about the Khawarij. You recall what the Prophet ﷺ said about the Khawarij, يَخْرُجُ فِيكُمْ قَوْمٌ, in which he mentioned that there will come from you a people, تَحْقِرُونَ صَلَاتَكُمْ مَعَ صَلَاتِهِمْ, that will make you, their salah will make you look down upon yours. وَصِيَامَكُمْ مَعَ صِيَامِهِمْ, and their siyam, their fasting, will make you look down upon your own fasting. وَعَمَلَكُمْ مَعَ عَمَلِهِمْ, actions will make you look down upon your own actions. وَيَقْرَؤُونَ الْقُرْآنِ, and he mentioned, after mentioning all these, he mentions وَيَقْرَؤُونَ الْقُرْآنِ sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they will recite the Quran. Allahu Akbar. Look how he singles out the Quran after mentioning amal, right? Right, this is ذكر الخاص بعد العام. ذكر الخاص بعد العام. He mentioned the amal, then he yani general amal actions, then he singles out sallallahu alayhi wasallam reciting the Quran, meaning they specialize in this. Their voices are beautiful. The tilawa is on point. The way they articulate the words in the huruf and the tajweed, mashallah tabarakallah, yani fi ghayat al-rawa, yani it's extremely beautiful. Okay. However, what did he say after that? لا يجاوز حناجرهم. That recital of the Quran, the beauty of the recital of the Quran, their voices, their pronunciation, the huruf, it will not exceed their throats in one narration. What did he say about them? يَمْرُقُونَ مِنَ الدِّينِ كَمَا يَمْرُقُ السَّهْمُ مِنَ الرَّمِيَّةِ Subhanallah bihamdi. That they will exit the deen as fast as the arrow goes through its target, its game. The hunted animal, or the arrow, it hits the animal and comes out the other side, they'll exit the deen as fast like that. Another interpretation, as fast as the arrow leaves, when you pull back the bow, as fast as when you let go, the arrow shoots out, that's how fast they'll leave the deen. So these Khawarij, right, these are of course speaking about the Khawarij, right, the Prophet had mentioned another hadith, Hum shirarul khalq wal khaliqa. They're the worst, they're the most evil of mankind in creation. And he mentioned another hadith in Bukhari, فَأَيْنَمَا لَقِيتُمُوهُمْ Wherever you meet them, فَاقْتُلُوهُمْ Kill them all. فَإِنَّ فِي قَتْلِهِمْ أَجْرًا لِمَنْ قَتَلَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ SubhanAllah. For verily, in killing them is a reward for those who have killed them on the Day of Judgment. In the Day of Judgment, they'll be rewarded for killing them in the dunya when they found them. SubhanAllah. Look at the severe words the Prophet ﷺ used in describing the Khawarij. Khair. Yet they were reciters of the Quran. Their actions, their salah, their siyam, their deeds would amaze you and make you look down upon your own deeds. Right? They were reciters of the Quran. However, despite that, the recital of the Quran did not exceed their throats. SubhanAllah. Showing what? That when the Prophet ﷺ says, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ This means the best of you are those who learn the Quran and act upon the Quran. Those of you who teach the Quran and act upon the Quran. These are the best of people. You guys understand this? This is clear, wadih. This is important. Because many people think they can just learn the Quran, recite it, and not learn its meanings, nor act upon it. And that they're sufficed. Alhamdulillah, they're hafiz. This suffices them. This is a mistake. A person has to learn the meanings. This is why the Quran was revealed. For you to act upon it. Right? The Quran was not revealed. There's not one verse in the Quran where Allah says, ihfadhu. Okay? He never says, ihfadhu or ihfadh. Memorize. Rather, you find the commandments in the Quran to be i'malu, to act, to implement. When Allah narrates from the Yahud, why are they maghdubi alayhim? Because they had the knowledge and what? They did not act upon it. So this is the gharad. This is the purpose of the Quran. Not to just simply recite and mashallah tabarakallah, that's it. Rather, it is to what? Recite and implement. Recite and learn and implement and teach others and call others towards al-birr wa taqwa. Khayran. Is this clear? What's understood by this hadith? Also, you find, we take a look at the hadith regarding the virtues of the Sahaba. You don't find many ahadith where the Prophet ﷺ had praised the Sahaba in their tilawah. There are a few. Now, of course, you have the hadith of speaking about Abdullah bin Mas'ud, من أحب أن يقرأ القرآن غضا كما أنزل فليقرأ على قراءة Ibn Abd, where he praised that whoever wants to recite the Quran as it was revealed, to let him recite on the qira'ah of Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abd. And he also said, in reference to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, لَقَدْ أُوتِيَ هَذَا مِنْ مَزَامِيرِ آلِ دَاوُود, that after listening to the recitation of Abu Musa, he said that he is given mazamir of Ali Dawood, praising his voice. But what other ahadith are there where the Prophet ﷺ had praised someone's voice or praised someone's qira'ah? Right? What other ahadith are there to show that? If it was something, simply reciting Quran, if that itself was something and the purpose of Islam, you would find that there will be more ahadith praising that action, just simply reciting. But instead, you find that the Prophet ﷺ, as well as the companions, they praise those who learn how to recite and acted upon it, acted upon that ilm, acted upon that knowledge. So much so the narration from Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu anhu, where he said, كان رجل منا إذا قرأ البقرة وآل عمران جد فينا. جد فينا. SubhanAllah. He said that a man among us, whenever he would recite al-Baqarah, Ali Imran, okay, the one who recited, who memorized Surah al-Baqarah, when he recited as well as Ali Imran, they were considered to be azim, jadda fina. They had high status with us. Why is that? Is it because simply they memorized those surahs, suratan? La. Instead, because, as we mentioned earlier, the Sahaba, when they learned the Quran, they will learn 10 verses, they will learn 5 verses, they would understand it, they will implement it, they will call others to it, and then do the same thing for the next 5 verses, for the next 10 verses. This was their method to memorize the Quran. So Anas ibn Malik speaking about this type of learning the Quran, this type of recital of the Quran, this type of implementation of the Quran, that a person what? Acts upon it. And when a person had memorized Surah Baqarah, Ali Imran, they didn't just simply memorize it and they could recite it. La. That meant they understood the meanings of those surah, right? And they actually implemented what was inside those surah, the surah 10, those 2 chapters. طيب. This is why Jadda Fina. This is why they were, they had a high esteem among Anas ibn Malik and the rest of the Sahaba because of the implementation of those chapters. SubhanAllah. And notice he didn't say, الذي يحفظ القرآن كاملا or قرأ القرآن كاملا. Rather, he pointed out Baqarah and Ali Imran due to the amount of ahkam within, okay, the rulings. Also, we find out Allah says in the Quran, what الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حق تلاوته. Okay, those who we have granted the kitab, they recite it haqqa tilawati. What is the meaning of haqqa tilawati? Ulaika yu'minuna bi. He said that verily they believe in it. They have iman in it. Mujahid, he said yattabi'unahu haqqa ittiba'i. That they follow it the way it's supposed to be followed. It's haqqa ittiba'i. Ibn Mas'ud, excuse me, he said يقرؤونه كما أنزل. They recite it just as it was revealed. ولا يحرفونه. And do not change the meanings. ويحلون حلاله. They deem the halal to be halal. ويحرمون حرامه. And they deem haram to be haram. What Allah has made haram, they deem it as haram. What Allah has made halal, they deem it as halal. So, although this verses was revealed about Ahlul Kitab, okay, ulama, they take this verse and apply it to the Muslims as well. That those who Allah granted the book in reference to the Quran, they recite it haqqa tilawatihi. What is the meaning that they recite it haqqa tilawati? They implement it as it should be implemented. Khayran. So all of this should make it clear the intent of this hadith. خيركم أو أفضلكم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه is not in reference to the one who simply memorizes and recites, la, but rather it's in reference to the one who implements. The one who implements. طيب. Allah Azza wa Jalla. طيب يكفي إن شاء الله. هذا يكفي إن شاء الله تعالى. طيب, what time is it? Allahu Akbar. Alright, just mention a few benefits and we'll stop. Benefits derived from this hadith: encouragement to learn and teach the Quran. This hadith, when you read it, and I should right here, implement as well. Encouragement to learn and implement, or rather, put it over here. Learn, teach, and implement the Quran. Because then you become among the best. There's a narration of Sufyan al-Thawri. He was asked about which action is better, fighting the way of Allah or teaching the Quran. وَرَجَّحَ الثَّانِي. He preferred the latter, which is the Quran. And he used this hadith that we're studying right now as his evidence for that. Last thing we'll mention is the virtue of performing deeds that benefits others. All right. Yeah, and this hadith also tells us that there's virtue if you have the choice whether to only benefit yourself versus benefiting yourself and others, or maybe benefiting 2 other people or 3 other people, that there's more virtue benefiting others, yani benefiting more people. Okay? As the one who recites the Quran only benefits himself, right? He gets the reward of reciting. But the one who teaches the Quran, not only does he benefit himself, he has to read it himself, obviously. He listens to what's being recited, but he also benefits others as well, and there's more rewards as a result. All right? Let's say you had 10 riyal or $10. You and your classmates. Everyone, mashallah, they're broke, no money. So let's say you had the option to go and buy a nice, mashallah, McDonald's meal or whatever, a nice meal for yourself with that $10. Or you could go to the tamis, right? Go and buy some tamis, some fool, some qilaba, right? You can buy adas, something cheap, but you and your classmates will be able to eat together and become full. Which of the two is better? Without a doubt, if you're able to sacrifice and choose to benefit yourself and your friends with that money, that $10 or 10 riyal, then that's better. And there's more khair in that. Okay? There's more khair in that. So there's benefit and there's a virtue of performing deeds that leads more benefit for the people. This is as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And who is better in statement than the one who calls to Allah and works righteous deeds, and he said that I'm from the Muslims. Who is better in statement? مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ, than the one who calls to Allah, meaning they teach others, they invite others, they benefit others. There's no one better than that individual. وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. Of course, he himself, he works righteous deeds. But he also calls others towards that righteous deeds. Here, there's no one better than, right? This is istifham, right? But obviously, it's a rhetorical question, right? Allah's not seeking from you to answer and provide someone who is better than that. It's obviously understood that the one who calls to Allah is the best, all right, while doing righteous deeds themselves. And they say that they are among the Muslims. Also, you find, this is a benefit mentioned by Shaykh Muhammad Ali Adam, Hafidhullah Ta'ala. He mentions that another evidence to show that performing deeds that benefits more people is better is the hadith al-mu'minu al-qawi khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if fi kullin khayr. That the strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, and in both of them there is khayr, in both of them there is good. How does that relate to this instance? Al-mu'min al-qawi, the one who is qawi, right? There's different interpretations, right? In terms of iman, the one who has stronger or higher iman is better than the one who has low iman. And in both of them there is good, right? Another interpretation you can take a look at is the one who is qawi in terms of his ilm, his knowledge, is better than the one who is da'if in terms of his knowledge. Okay? Why is that? Because the one who is qawi has the ability to teach others and benefit others. Okay? And from that aspect, he's better, right? He's able to bring more benefit than the one who is da'if in his iman, or his knowledge. Okay? However, with that being said, وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ, and in both of them there is good. طيبين? So, we'll end with that, inshallah ta'ala. I hope everyone was able to benefit from this class. May Allah Azza wa Jalla accept it. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make this knowledge a proof for us and not against us. In the next classes, inshallah ta'ala, we'll cover more ahadith as we go. Today, providing an introduction, a little background regarding the Sunan of Ibn Maajah, which was important. We have to provide that information. But inshallah, in the next class, we'll go over more ahadith. نكتفي بهذا القدر إن شاء الله تعالى وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.